Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video I'm going to be indulging in a little bit of retro gaming goodness. I'm going to have a look at this, the very recently released A500 Mini. Now this has been released by a company called Retro Games Limited. It is of course the latest in a wide range of miniature consoles based on systems from the past. Over the last few years we've seen a wide variety of systems come out, things like this, the NES Mini, the SNES Mini, the Mega Drive, the PlayStation, the Core Graphics one. Now I personally am quite a fan of these little systems. I know there's a lot of debate about them, but I think they're really cool little devices. You can kind of sit them there, nice little ornaments on your shelves, you can plug them in. They're a good starting point for anyone who wants to indulge in retro gaming or revisit their childhood. Now, this is the third system released by Retro Games Limited. Their previous ones are the VIC-20 Mini and the C64 Mini. Now, those are both systems that I'm not overly familiar with. I know of the C64, but the VIC-20 was even more so before my time. But I do know that the C64 Mini especially did garner quite a few levels of acclaim. Now this is of course based on the Amiga 500 system itself, which was released by Commodore back in the late 80s. It was seen back then as sort of a low-end version of their own home computer, the A1000, and it saw huge levels of success across Europe, and it's remembered fondly even to this day. Now I've of course mentioned a few times on this channel that my very first gaming system was an Amiga. It was the 500 Plus to be exact, and I have a huge fondness for that system. There were so many games that I just remember playing on it, and I explored so many genres and styles on there, and it was sort of very fundamental in shaping my childhood. So when I heard that there was going to be a miniature console based on the system, it was incredibly exciting, because for me, not only was this like going to be a nice little miniature console based on one of my favourite systems, I saw it as an opportunity to get that Amiga name back out there again, back out into the public consciousness. I was also admittedly quite surprised because, even though I love these miniature consoles, I do indulge in retro gaming outside of that, and I have some sort of levels of knowledge of the retro gaming scene. I know there's been a lot of sort of legal stuff go down in the Amiga scene over who owns the rights to various things, so I was actually really surprised that we were going to get one of these. I didn't think we would get one for the Amiga, but that's probably content for another video by someone who has a lot more knowledge than myself. I'm here purely to take a look at the system and the games. Now, before we go into this, like I just mentioned before, I've never been, fully outside of that scene, and I do know things like emulation do exist. There's still a thriving Amiga scene out there of collectors. I myself do have an A600 and a CD32, both of which I've featured on this channel, so after this, go back, watch those videos. But for me, what this really offers is it's sort of an affordable entry point for anyone who wants to get back into the Amiga scene. I know there's emulation. The Amiga emulation is a lot simpler than it used to be, but it's still a little bit fiddly. And if you ever want to go back the authentic route, then the original systems now will cost you so much money. But for this, it's a very user-friendly, you plug it into your TV, you've got a good curated list of games there, and this actually has the ability to sideload games, which I'll go into later in the video. And the games, they often, more often than not, feature sort of the best the system had to offer. So there's stuff anyone who was into it back in the time will remember. If you want to indulge, you go, so this is sort of the best the system had to offer. So with all that said, let's actually have a closer look at the system. So first up we have the system itself, which is really a really lovely tiny replica of the real thing. Like many of these miniature consoles out there, it's just super charming. It's pretty much kind of a perfect replica of it. The only difference being is that you don't have the working keyboard, which, kind of obvious reasons, it would be far too small to use. And your ports on the back, they're USB, HDMI, rather than, what the Amiga would have had on the day, like serial, parallel port, RF, the whole lot of stuff. There isn't too much to say though. It's really, really lovely. It feels quite solid and good quality. But what about the other things that kind of come with it? So next up we have the mouse, which, as you can see, it's based on the old style tank mice you would have had back in the late 80s, 90s.
It's much like the system itself. It's not an exact replica because instead of the the ball in there, it's got an optical mouse. It connects via USB, but it feels really solid. It feels authentic. That's kind of what you're here for. It's a nice, satisfying click for the buttons, and it fits quite nice in the hand. Next up, we've got the gamepad. So this is a bit of an odd choice for some people because the gamepad you get for the A500 Mini is actually kind of based on the one that you got for the Amiga CD32, which was actually a couple of systems after the A500 released. It's kind of the sort of failed system, so to speak. It was like Commodore's last effort to get a system out there. It does feel a lot better than the original CD32 joypad, I'll give it that much, because I've got an original CD32 joypad and it's not great. I guess the reason it's kind of an odd choice is for many people, the sort of iconic controller for the Amiga was the old joystick, the kind of zipstick style thing, where it's like quite a black solid block with the yellow button on it and that. You can get one of these for the C64 Mini. You can buy a USB joystick separate to connect it if you want to. You can buy the gamepad separate. I don't really have too much to say here. It feels quite nice as a controller. It works. The buttons are quite responsive. The D-pad's okay. It's not the most comfortable controller I've ever held, but it's authentic to the Amiga, I guess. And I guess it's the authenticity that you are after here, because, it would be a bit weird if it came with a more comfortable controller, some of my favourites, like the Mega Drive controller, or, an Xbox One controller, or a PS4 controller. You're kind of there for that authenticity. So yeah, it's nice, it's lovely, it looks great. The other kind of odd thing is you can buy the gamepad separate, as I've just mentioned, but the one you buy separate isn't the same sort of beige cream colour. It's actually like a black colour, which it makes no difference really. It's just an extra controller if you want to play the games two-player. But the hardware is, of course, only one side of the equation here. For many people, it's going to be the games that are the draw. So let's have a look at what the A500 has to offer. So the A500 comes with 25 games preloaded onto it. Now, it's a wide variety of games, some of which are familiar to me, some of which aren't. And it's going to be kind of in the eye of the beholder here as to, your mileage. There are some games here that I probably wouldn't have picked, and some games I would have liked to have seen represented here. But just to name a few, you've got Another World, which I think you absolutely had to include here, because that is a very iconic game. Not just for the Amiga, but in terms of, cinematic titles in general. It was a huge inspiration for a number of developers who, would go on to develop some iconic games themselves. Hideo Kojima cites it as an inspiration. The team behind one of the Silent Hill games cited it as an inspiration. It's a hugely important game, so I think definitely have that represented there. You've got Zool, which is a platformer which I loved growing up. I personally don't think it's aged the best. In terms of Amiga platformers, I probably would have picked Super Frog to add on here as well. I'm not quite sure why Super Frog isn't on here. Maybe it's some sort of licensing thing. I don't necessarily think it's to do with a Team 17 thing, because you do have Worms on here. And you've got Alien Breed represented on here. A few of the others on here, you've got Pinball Dreams. Absolutely must-have Amiga title. It's a fantastic pinball game, as is its follow-up title, Pinball Fantasies. The one afterwards I'm not as familiar with, but from what I understand, Pinball Illusions is another brilliant game. You've got Simon Sorcerer on there. Point and click I'm not overly familiar with. One of my friends is a big fan of the Simon Sorcerer games, so I can totally understand that, the inclusion being on there. Again, if you're going to go point and clicks, you could have had Monkey Island on there as well. You could have had Beneath a Steel Sky on there. And I'm sure they were like King's Quest and that on there. Again, it comes down to licensing, it's all eye of the beholder. You've got a game on here called The Sentinel, which I'm not overly familiar with. Then you've got your Alien Breed on there. Now, you've got two flavours of Alien Breed on this. You've got the Alien Breed Special Edition from the early 90s, and you've got Alien Breed 3D, which is quite an interesting one, because this is obviously based on the A500, but Alien Breed 3D was a CD32 game. It's quite interesting. It's a good example of sort of early 3D. It's not going to be the best thing you've played. It's not going to be the most stable thing you've played. You've got a flight sim on here with F-16 Combat Pilot. You've got Battle Chess on there. Stunt Car Racer is one I did have as a kid. I was absolutely terrible at it. I've played it a few times now, and I enjoy it. It's quite an interesting one. You're on a track. It's again, early 3D, very interesting style of graphics. Speedball 2, absolute must-have sports game on there. This is going to be like one for... You're going to bust this out when you've got friends over, I think, with Speedball 2. As you probably are for Chaos Engine, 2 of Bitmap Brothers' finest there. You've got Kickoff 2 on here, not one of my favourites, I'll admit. And this is going to be sacrilege to many, I never really could play Sensible Soccer that well either. I do think Sensible Soccer is a better game, and I'm kind of surprised that was not included on here too. You've got Quark, which is one that I wasn't familiar with growing up. You've got California Games, which is one that is seen as an all-time classic. That's quite a fun one. Again, sort of maybe you'd bust it out for multiplayer. Titus the Fox, I was really surprised to see this one included, because I remember playing this one as a kid. I remember it being quite a good, really tough kind of platformer. I was very, very surprised by its inclusion here, because I didn't really think many people remembered it, and I did also kind of think it would be one of them ones where the license to it would be just sort of in some sort of strange limbo. You've got an arcade pool title on there. You've got Project X, which is another Team 17 title, super hard, kind of side-scrolling, bullet hell type thing. And you've got Supercars 2, which is a top-down racer, which is really fun, but also kind of quirky as well. In between your races, you'll get like little questionnaires and such pop up. It's kind of weird. You can get fined for getting questions wrong. You can upgrade your cars in between. You've got like weapon upgrades and stuff. It's very, very fun. It's also one of those ones where I've kind of seen as a classic. For me personally, it's a good selection of games on here. Not necessarily all the ones I would have picked, but then again, my opinions are probably very different from another Amiga owners. I would have liked to have seen Super Frog on here, because it's one of my favourite platformers. You've already got one pinball game on here, so I don't think they could probably justify putting Pinball Fantasies on there too. Maybe I would have liked to see another point and click on there. You could have maybe delved into, if EA had made any of their titles available, maybe you could have put Desert Strike on here. You could have gotten, we've got Another World on there. You could maybe have gotten Flashback, or maybe even another Delphine title on there. But there is such a vast library on the Amiga. You're talking other games, games will just pop into my head as I'm talking now. I just thought of another one. Moonstone could have been put on here, which is another sort of classic Amiga RPG, which is, very, very beloved. There's, various puzzle games that could have been on there. You could have put Lemmings on here, or Walker. You could have dipped into DMA Designs, but then it varies on what you can get the licenses to. It depends on how much the licenses cost. It depends on what the developers are willing to give up. But the range of 25 you've got on there preloaded, it's a good selection. I don't really have too many faults with it. There's something there pretty much for everyone. But the one advantage that this has that many retro consoles do not have, unless you're going to, go in and start messing about with custom firmware or sideload and stuff, is this actually comes with something called WHD Load, which you can download from the Retro Games website. You pop it onto a USB stick, you can get WHD Load packages of games, and you can put your own games on here. So, it's not the simplest process in the world. I went through 2 different USB sticks to get a working one. You have to put the folders in a very particular way. There is a guide on their website telling you how to do it. Still, it's not worded the best, I'll admit. There is an online guide which I also looked up. There are YouTube videos telling you how to do this sort of thing. But once you've got that in place, you can just put your WHD Load files onto this, on a USB stick, plug it in the back, and you're away. You can play any game you want. So I can play Super Frog on here. I can play Monkey Island on here. I can play Beneath a Steel Sky. I can play Flashback. I could play Moonstone. I could play Theme Park. I could play SimCity. I've got range to all of those titles, and it does support, again, because this is the A500 Mini, you would think it only supports A500 stuff. It does support 1200, the AGA stuff, and it does support CD32 as well. I don't know how good the CD32 support is, but I did try it on Sid Meier's Pirates Gold, and that worked. Unfortunately, I don't think you quite got the music in there. It's not perfect, because I know CD32 WHD load stuff isn't perfect, so you're kind of confined by that. But once you've got that in place, you open yourself up to being able to play hundreds of titles on here. And once they're on, you just go to the option in the menu, you play them. You'll be seeing it on screen now, me playing a variety of stuff I've side-loaded onto it. So, you know, with that in mind, I think that's a huge boost for this system to help kind of, you know, maybe justify it a little bit more. Like I say, it's a little bit fiddly, but you get it there. So, with all of that said, what are my final thoughts on the... So, the pros and cons of the A500 Mini now. It's a bit pricey. It's over 100 quid, but it is a nice piece of kit. It looks great. You've got a good range of the 25 games on there. I think the side loading is just a huge advantage for it. Now, the one problem with the side loading is the USB ports on the back. You only get 3 of them. So, one for your USB stick, one for a mouse, one for one controller. Usually you will kind of need a mouse, sometimes with these WHD load packages to get past the intro screens or any other type of screen. Of course, you can get a USB hub to kind of expand that a bit more, but there's a little bit shortage of real estate there. But you can't just have the entire back of the system be USB ports. You can't just have like 5 of them there. But it's worth pointing out that if you do want to play certain things that might require a mouse, keyboard, and a game controller, I don't know what might require that. That's quite an extreme range of things, but you know, you've got a lot of real estate there on the back. The other cons, again, sort of eye of the beholder. The range of games wasn't exactly what I would have picked, but that's me personally. If you yourself watching this, you might absolutely love all 25 of those games. You might only love one of them. Again, that just goes back to the USB side loading thing. You can put your own ones on there if you want to. The other thing, the emulation felt good. I had no complaints myself. Like many miniature consoles, very easy to set up. HDMI cable into your TV, the USB cable from the back, again, into a port on your TV if your TV's got one. Some people might find it a bit of a con that you don't get a USB power adapter in there, but you never do with these retro systems. It's just a way of things, unfortunately, but most TVs now have USB ports on them, so yeah, you power from the TV, you plug your HDMI cable in, you press the button on the back, you're away. It's absolutely fine. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. It's a system I've been using and I will continue to use. I find I'm absolutely awful at the games. I threw in some footage of Another World in there. It probably took me ages to get past the first screen because I kept dying. It wasn't that dissimilar to when I was a child. It's a lovely game. It's iconic, but it's a bloody tough game. I think I had a far easier time getting past the opening stuff on Elden Ring than I did Another World. But that's the way of things on some of these older titles. The one thing it does include is save states, which is a huge boost because, speaking to someone who owned an Amiga and grew up with it, when you went from the Amiga to like my PlayStation, being able to save games even with a memory card was just sort of like, oh my god, you can save the games now. With this, it's good as well. Get to end of the level, you can save your game. You don't have to do the whole game over thing because game overs are horrible. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. Like I say, the cons here really are probably the price point. It's quite a high entry price for people, depending on how much you're going to use it. You might not gel with all of the games there. There are some notable omissions there. Again, as I mentioned before, there were games that will pop into my mind all the time. Like, even now I'm thinking you could have put one of the Turrican titles on there, but it's what they could get the rights to and what they could afford to put on, and as I keep always going back to, the side loading is what will be the transformative thing for many people. It's very easy to set up. Like I said, a little bit fiddly, but relatively easy compared to setting up an actual emulator. It's just plug and play once you've got them on that USB stick. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you were an Amiga owner growing up and you want to get back into that, but you don't want the faff of emulation, you don't want the cost of the authentic original hardware, which of course has its own caveats because you have to make sure the systems are set up correctly and have been recapped or whatever, it's a great point to jump back in. If you weren't an Amiga owner and you want to see what the Amiga was all about, it's a good point to hop in. It's like I say, it's pricey, but all of these systems tend to be between 80 to 120 anyway. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think I really enjoy my time with it. And yeah, just check it out. Thank you all very much for taking the time to watch this. I really hope you enjoyed this little sort of mini review and unboxing of the system. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you own one of these yourself, let me know how you're finding it. If you are going to let me know if you're going to pick one up. If you do, come back and let me know what you think about it. I'm always willing to hear what people think of this system. Hit me up on social media, drop a like for the video, subscribe, comment, that whole thing, and I shall see you again in the future. Goodbye.